Welcome to this exclusive interview on PSM News. This week, a high-level delegation from the Global Smooth Flotilla is visiting the Maldives. In this interview, we speak with the members of the flotilla's steering committee to better understand their mission, their experiences on the ground and at sea, the challenges they face, and their vision for sustaining global solidarity with the people of Gaza. Thank you all for joining us, and welcome to the Maldives, and welcome to PSMA as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To begin this interview, could you explain to our audience what the Global Smooth Flotilla is and how it has evolved since its launch in mid-July as a collective international response to the humanitarian crisis in Gaza?
Anyone can? Do you want?
Say.
First of all, thank you for having us here. For us, it's a huge pleasure to be here in the Maldives. We've been before as well in Malaysia, and we really believe that this region has a lot to contribute, not only to the Palestinian solidarity, but also to the building of a new society. That's what we aim in the last stance. We are part of a coalition of coalitions that are aiming to be in support of the Palestinian people, so we are part of the solidarity movement, and we created a mission, but also the perspective of a social movement that aims to break the illegal siege of Gaza on our sea missions, to create a people's humanitarian corridor, but not to stop there, to continue in support of the Palestinian people in their struggle for total liberation, self-determination. So our idea is to have the sea missions like the one that we had once we were created, but we also aim in this non-violent direct action tactic to have other types of actions. So we've been doing land convoys, we are preparing solidarity actions in many places, demonstrations, general strikes, because we understand that it's our duty to be in the greatest battle of our generation and to be there, not only for the Palestinian people, but for all just causes in the world. So the Global Smooth Flotilla aims to be a bit more than what people think, just a sea mission. We really want to be there to transform this world.
Yeah. Just like how you mentioned, the flotilla is founded on the principles of non-violence and peace building. In practical terms, how do these principles guide your actions when operating in highly sensitive and politically charged environments?
For example, we are trained not to be violent during the mission. So it's our basic principle that we are only acting in defense mode only when we are attacked. We don't even react to that. Maybe you have seen the videos during the interception of the boats, but this is okay in the narrow, let's say, notion of non-violence. In general, even in the protests we organize in our own countries, our land teams contribute to this. Even then, we are non-violent again. We are trying to pressure by any means we have. At the diplomatic level, for example, at high-level politics, through advocacy, parliamentarians who ask questions in the parliament related to the Palestinian struggle, or even bottom-up initiatives, blocking ports, blocking the trade of weapons. So this is non-violent in a broader sense. Because we are trying to go against the industry, the war industry, initiated, usually stimulated by the United States policies and Israel policies.
GSF aims not only to deliver humanitarian assistance, but also to challenge the blockade on Gaza. From your experience, how effective is civilian non-violent action in drawing international attention to such prolonged humanitarian crisis?
So, in history, in so many struggles around the world, nonviolent action and disobedience has been there as an essential part of any civil society mobilization. We are also inspired by the Palestinian people resilience and nonviolent resistance itself. In 1936, the Great Arab Strike for 3 years Palestinians organized the strike. The first Intifada, the 82, the Christian villages disobedience action of refusing to use Israeli products. The second Intifada, the Great March of Return. There are so many examples. The hunger strikes of the Palestinian prisoners. So non-violent is a strategy, is a fundamental element of the Palestinian movement itself, and we are inspired by that. Our decision to apply this strategy within our action, because we are civil society. We come from organizations that are everywhere. So we have seen that hundreds of thousands of people went out to the streets during the whole month of the mission. After the interception, continued a strike of more than 4 million persons in the workers of the ports in Italy, a strike in all over Spain on the 15th of October. There are so many examples of how attention came to the Palestinian cause through that mission, and billions of people followed the information and viewed all the publications that we have done on social media. So definitely this collective process brought lots of attention. Part of it because we are using this strategy as civil society, and another important part because it represented a collective participation from countries from all over the world to support the Palestinian cause.
I say that you are closely working with the GSF. How has your experience been?
I think it has been hectic. We have been doing work for Gaza for such a long time, but we are learning from them. We are learning the meaning of Sumud, which is in comparison to what we usually hear Sabar. Sabar is quite a big difference. Sabar is just waiting and saying Alhamdulillah and saying I will accept everything that Allah throws at us. But Sumud is on a different level. It means that you take proactive actions to change the situation, to change what is keeping you down, and you make efforts to make your lives better. And that is what the Palestinian people are showing. Their mosques are being bombed, but they still pray 5 times a day in their mosque. Their schools have been bombed, their universities, but they are still asking us to create online schools and online universities so that they can still go with the learning process. Their homes are being bombed, but they are still building it with tents and not wanting to leave the places that they once called home. So in comparison to what they are doing, the Global Sumud Flotilla takes their actions from this resilience, and we strive and push on forward. Having to work with thousands of people from tens of countries for long periods of time, it takes a toll on you. It makes you stressed, it makes you fight with your wife, but at the end of the day, we are doing this for the Palestinian people, but more so we are doing it for ourselves, we are doing it for the future generation, we are doing it for our children, and if we do not take action, if we do not want to spend our energy today, then we will not be able to do so, and the chance will be foregone tomorrow.
Okay. With your permission, let me just ask a question in the way to International Aid Campaign. International Aid Campaign on me Global Sumud Flotilla ya ekiga masake kurata fudevara duwas me vane vefa kinato tajriba ki vegento me kahala me mission ega baveri woman nimme
शुक्रिया अंगत फरतो अने इंटरनेशनल एड कैंपेन की में जैसे ओलन फिच के इंसानी ही की गांव तक फोर को दे जमिया दें हास को गाजा जैस अशारा फिच के माने कैनेल मिदने एक प्रोजेक्ट फलस्तीना में हिंगमो दें एकमो में जैस तेवी अक्टूबर हाथे के फाहूं में जेनोसाइड आने एक्टिवली फेट्टुम फाहूं दें गोस आने सीज मडवणों को मैं सीज उन्नता में वरदो से जहाँ सातकों फिश के मैंने कहा मैं हारे ब्लॉकेड वर्गों मंगो से एवसे चनवेद्य हिसाब दिया दें हमें हितंगे आलूमेंगे मैं एड हम मैं तो जही में रफा बॉर्डर का जोड़न का बोट्टे मैं डायरेक्ट एक्शन ना का मैं हर सीज ब्रेक करेंगे एम्मे बड़ो मस्कते कोरा बाय की मैं ग्लोबल समुद्र फ्लोटिला हमें मालूम है तेरे दिव्य राज्य की मैं कितने कोड़कोड़ गांव में भी सालों में गए ही आज में फाउं में श्रीलंका है सालों में और जनरस मामूली गांव दुनिया के ही वाह बाय हमें मालूम है तेरे අලුවෙන් මේ සීජ් බ්‍රේක් කරුමුග මේ මසකේ නොකොෆියාම අලුවෙන් නම් එහි ෆෝරකොත් දෙන දොරෝති බන්දොෙ ඒ මෑගනු රීසන්.
Yeah. Many of your members have worked physically and have participated directly in maritime missions. Could you share some of the key experiences or moments that you see that best reflects the realities faced by the civilians attempting to reach Gaza?
We are part of a historical legacy of people trying to be in solidarity with the Palestinian people and break this horrific siege that has been unfortunately ongoing for 18 years,
Yes.
and which is part of an even broader 8 decades of genocide and ethnic cleansing of an apartheid colonial state led by this horrific racist and supremacist ideology called Zionism. So the siege started in 2007, and right in 2008, the first sea missions to break the siege, they start. The first 5 missions they managed to get to Gaza. They're small missions with small fishing boats, and all the subsequent missions have been intercepted since then. 17 years of illegal interceptions in international waters, of Israel doing bureaucratic warfare to stop missions at ports, sending his agents to sabotage boats, to put acid on water tanks, to destroy the propellers, and even attacking boats with drones, bombing boats like they did in May last year between Malta and Italy, or bombing our mission that was bombed in a single night 14 times by drones. So we've seen a lot of violations and attacks to this mission, which in the end are a humanitarian non-violent solidarity mission that should not be attacked. They are protected by international law. But Israel is a rogue state that does not accept and does not respect international law. So what we've seen is that once they intercept a mission like they did to us for the whole world to see, they kidnap people that were going from international waters, which is not Israeli jurisdiction, to Palestinian territorial waters, which is of course not Israeli jurisdiction as well, despite the fact that they think that they can colonize that region. They kidnap people, change the course, send these people to Ashdod port. Once we get to Ashdod port, we are also put into illegal and violent strip searches. People have been assaulted. People have been even sexually assaulted in this previous mission, part to say. People are transferred to and accused of a crime that they didn't commit, to attempt to enter Israel illegally, which was never our plan, our objective at all. And then people are taken to prison facilities, prison units, sometimes in the desert, sometimes in other places of occupied Palestine. And people go through all sorts of violations, but it's nothing compared to what Palestinians go through in the same prison. I'll give you an example. We were, many of us, and 462 people were in Kitziot prison in this previous mission, the last mission. Once we were there, in order to put us in that prison in the Negev desert, the Israelis, they removed the Palestinians from 4 different pavilions. But when people got to the pavilions, they could see the writings of the Palestinians in the beds, in the walls, and they were mentioning and reporting the tortures and the violations that they've been through. Because on that same place, that they commit violations with us, but on these prisons, they are the ones that when torturing, they remove the eyeballs of Palestinians, where they rape Palestinians, where they teach their military dogs to rape Palestinians, where they assassinate Palestinians in the most horrific ways, that once they are found in mass graves, they are still with their hands cuffed or tied to their backs. So yes, the Israeli regime commits violations with international solidarity activists. They killed many. Just in a few years, they killed many, just like they killed 240 United Nations workers and over 250 health workers as well, 230 journalists. They've been committing crimes and crimes, one after the other. But it's nothing compared to what they do to every Palestinian in an ethnic cleansing and genocidal project for 8 decades. So you always say that, of course, it's not fair to us, but we are not the story. We are doing that because the countries that should be doing this, which is upholding international law of international treaties that they sign and they are accountable for, they are not doing it. So that's why everyday people must do it. Because if they are giving up on one of the most fundamental things of humanity, which is the right of people to live in peace, for children not to be starved to death, not to be bombed by 2,000-pound bombs produced in the United States, people in the world must intervene and do something. So that's why we go through.
What have been the main challenges the flotilla faced, either logistical, political, or security related, and how has this shaped your future strategies?
Can I give a first answer? Okay, and then he will complement. But I want to show you the example of Greece. So depending, of course, on in which country you are active, you have different type of challenges. But of course, some challenges are a concern for all of us. So what happened in Greece is that because Greek government is a very strong ally of Israel, because also of Cyprus, a complicated story, we thought that we should keep the mission secret. So we did not announce the boats as they did in other places, which made our life very difficult in terms of logistics. You can imagine we were moving boats secretly during the night from port to port. However, now we feel more safe because everything went well, at least in Greece, and we managed to reach Creta without problems with the Coast Guard and the Navy. And now it comes to the bigger problems, the bigger challenges. In general, so for the future, I don't know whether we will keep it secret or we will publish them, because you have different advantages when you publish a mission. You have broader support, popular support. So that brings me to the point when we met the other boats coming from Tunisia, from Sicily, etc. And they had different challenges. Saif might want to explain further. Because of course, even in countries where the government is more friendly to the Palestinian cause, you can have organizational problems or problems to get permission, for example, for fishing boats to leave the country, and that causes delays as well. So this was actually our most difficult moment, I think, when the boats passed from Barcelona to Tunis, and so they could leave to Sicily. And the drones that Tiago already mentioned, like attacks by drones, they can destroy parts of your boats, and then you need to fix them, you need to find very fast engineers, etc.
Well, we have to accept the fact that such a mission will always bring challenges, regardless of the preparation of the work that we do, for many factors. As you mentioned, there are logistical factors, so which means the part before and during the trip itself, finding the boats themselves. So we have to work in many areas within short period of time to ensure that boats are available, and which means that also we have to work on funding in parallel to make sure that we are receiving the enough donations to be able to provide for it. People, we are bringing people from every part of the world. In the last mission, and at the interception point, there were 460 persons, but within the process itself, we had thousands of people involved. Thousands of people that they didn't have previous experience working together, because many of them joined the mission recently, which means that we are working with a huge cultural diversity, communication styles. So we have to also bridge those gaps between people. Sabotage, it's very important for us. We had security at all ports to try to make sure that there is no impact that happening to the boats. The threat of bureaucratical sabotage, saying that you cannot sail or you cannot leave the port. So that's a psychological pressure that we always deal with, because if you make all this preparation, for example, the departure in Barcelona, we had thousands of people traveling from everywhere coming to Barcelona. We had an event organized from everywhere, and imagine that at the launch date, we receive a notification saying that you cannot sail. So that's a huge psychological pressure to deal with. The team itself, one of the challenges, we are all volunteers. None of us is a worker, for example, dedicating time with a salary to be able to do this work. So we are all volunteers that are putting time into this, which means also that you have to work with people that they are dedicating too much time and energy, and the challenge that they face to be able to access the materials, the needs. For example, we were preparing during summer period the security equipment that we have to ensure that exists on every port. Barcelona during summer, it's disaster. Everything is closed. So this is a challenge to be able to make sure where we can get this from. Those were sailing boats with some motor boats that are going to cross a long distance. So we have to ensure the gasoline, the fuel, where do we stop, how we refill that, there is enough water, there is no water, mechanical error on the way for the boats, how we can arrange for the people to be taken away to be able to return to their country, things that absolutely outside of our control, like weather situations. When we had the departure from Barcelona, we were hit directly with a storm, which impacted many of the boats, and some of them needed to go back to be fixed and then to rejoin the process. So those challenges are very, very difficult. But I think one important element that we have to consider is the well-being of our people, the participants who come on this mission. It's a huge pressure and can take psychological toll on everyone. So the experience that they face in the prison, we keep always repeating that. It's not possible to compare of what the Israeli regime do for international activists and the suffering and the violence and the crimes that Palestinians face. But this should not at any point minimize the impact that people receive because of this experience. People who have not lived violence, who haven't been dealing with these situations before, and they found themselves being imprisoned. They found for the first time that their passport means nothing, that their ambassador cannot reach them, that they have to be pushed from one place to another, that they are deprived from their basic rights, without putting any comparison to the violations that Palestinians face. This in itself brings a huge weight on people. So also working with the people upon their return and talk to them and provide support, this is a responsibility that we have to take very seriously, because we are building a global movement, and people is the most fundamental part of this movement. And any movement does not function without having a big, strong collective. So we keep learning from those experiences. We are now having more time to prepare. We have built a huge logistical team and operation team to prepare for the next mission. We have established new structures that can address all of those situations that we have identified. And still, there will be elements that we cannot control. We cannot control if Israel will commit a crime and bomb our boats on the way. We cannot control if they send drones. We cannot control if governments decide to be complicit and block boats in any of the ports that we are leaving from. We cannot control the weather. But whatever we can control, we are working very hard and dedicating all the time we can with our teams to ensure that procedures are put in place for these missions to be as safety as possible for our people.
The Maldives has continuously and consistently advocated for the rights of the Palestinian people on the international platforms. How do you see small island nations and principal states contributing meaningfully to global humanitarian initiatives such as the Global Smooth Flotilla?
You know, in this part of the world, we are represented by Sumut Nusantara, and we are representing more than 10 countries in the region. But for the steering committee members of the Global Smooth Flotilla, we only choose 2 countries to be in Malaysia and then in Maldives. And that shows how Maldives is a very important country in our coalition. They have the expertise and the skill sets to give so much more to the Global Smooth Flotilla and to the people of Palestine. You said that Maldives is an island nation, and imagine an island nation and its 500,000 people going into a sea mission with the expertise that they have as captains, as technicians, as electricians, as boat engine repairers. That is the skill that we need from the people of Maldives. Your support has been tremendous through the IAC. You have been giving funds, you have been giving donations, you have been doing this non-stop, even at the government level. So this is the time to put your efforts into the limelight. Let the world see that Maldives is not just a tourism hub, but also a humanitarian hub where the people are very, very fond of making others live the same way that they are living, making the other children of the world getting the same rights that we are having, and having a free Palestine as the people of Maldives are living freely and as the other people of the world are living freely, inshallah.
Your visit this time here includes meetings with the government officers and civil society organizations. What forms of cooperation or participation are you hoping for the future to encourage during this visit? What do you want to achieve particularly during this visit?
Yeah, after this visit, we will inshallah start mobilizing and start recruiting for the ground team and the participants for the flotilla, like Brother Nadir mentioned. We have expertise we can offer, like captains and engineers and mechanics, and also Maldivians are very familiar with the sea, and like during the mission you can see most of the participants. The last mission was actually open, the first mission open to the public, so most of the participants wasn't really, they didn't know what they were getting into, and we saw a lot of participants getting seasick and other types of difficulties. So Maldives has a better chance in the sea, if you know what I mean. And since we have prayer support from the government and from the people of the Maldives, it will be easy to coordinate, inshallah. And we hope for IAC, our hope is always, our dream is always, as a small island nation, to be in the forefront of the humanitarian and the global civil movements, representing proudly a small nation. And Global Sumud Flotilla has opened a door for us, small nation, to go against the biggest nations, biggest oppressors in the world, so we can be an example to the rest of the world.
From your global advocacy work, how would you assess the current situation and current level of international awareness and political will regarding the humanitarian situation in Gaza? And where do you believe the gaps still exist?
Well, I mean, 37 organizations were just banned by Israel. The reality is, yes, humanitarian work in Palestine is being violated continuously. As Tiago mentioned earlier, there are hundreds of people who work in international organizations as humanitarian organizations have been assassinated and bombed. Israel, in addition to banning those 37 organizations, they have took a law saying that the United Nations agency, the UNRWA, is illegal and they are not allowed to operate in Palestine. They were, the other day, they were discussing about confiscating the schools that the UNRWA has around Jerusalem and to be able to use it for their military bases. So in reality, we have an international corrupt political system that applies international law wherever they see fit. We have governments that have power where they justify invasions and justify wars every place. And there has been resolutions by international courts, there has been resolutions by the United Nations, there has been reports by human rights agencies and councils about the violations and the continuous crimes that Israel is committing. The ceasefire itself is an example of how Israel is able to manipulate information in news and how they are able to commit crimes with the complicity of the world without raising any flag, without anybody coming to Israel and say, hey, you signed a ceasefire, you cannot continue bombing Palestinians. They have included a specific number of trucks to enter daily. That is anyway less than the amount that is needed by the Palestinians, and they allow less than half of those trucks to enter to Gaza. So even the agreements that they sign, they violate and they don't care. The special Francesca Albanese, the special advisor on human rights for the United Nations, was not allowed to enter to Palestine. How a country is able to block international representatives of human rights agencies and just escape it? So we are in context where humanitarian aid is being attacked constantly. But it's very important to emphasize that the Palestinian situation is not a humanitarian crisis. This is essential within our context because many people say we send more aid and it's resolved, or we bring more, reconstruct more houses. This is not the situation. While Israel and the states and some agencies try to bring it in that way, Palestine is not suffering from an earthquake. It's not suffering from a storm. There are no floods happening in the country. This is a systematic ethnic cleansing genocide process that is being committed by a genocidal government since the establishment of that entity over the land of Palestine 8 years ago until now. It is only based on committing massacres and is based on the displacement of the Palestinian people and the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And this is what the main reason of what's happening in Palestine. This is why children are being starved to death. This is why hospitals, they don't have equipments and they are being bombed. This is why there are no schools and universities and students have to do online or they have to go to tents. This is why today, while we are here, people are having water entering into their tents and babies are being dying because of cold. So there is nothing related to humanitarian aid that can resolve what is happening. We need to change the whole political system and stop this corrupt process that is violating people's rights without any permission and impose a total isolation, total embargo on the government of Israel to ensure that genocide stop and to end the occupation. Other than that, they will continue committing crime because if nobody is stopping them, we were just discussing earlier before we started this interview about the news coming of them attacking North Lebanon. They have bombed the negotiators in Qatar, like the team that they are negotiating with to reach a peace agreement and ceasefire. They bombed them. They have they enter every day into Syria territories. They don't care. Simply as that, they live in a total impunity because the international governments and politics are enabling them to commit. They provide them with weapons. They provide them with financial support. They provide them with political support. Until we change that, we will continue seeing children starve to death. We will continue seeing genocide. And not only in Palestine, they are involved in many other places. We were just in Colombia and we were learning about how Mossad was training military groups how to commit crimes against the civilians. And many police forces around the world are being trained by the Israeli army on how they can repress demonstrations. Their civilians softwares are being used to spy on people in everywhere. So they are providing tools for all repressive governments on how they can commit violations of the rights of their own citizens or how other groups can commit crimes. And that's why we have to mobilize globally. That's why we have to put an end to this injustice.
The GSF speaks strongly about Palestinian rights and to their access to their own coastline and to live with dignity. Why is maritime access such a powerful and symbolic issue in the broader struggle for Palestinian rights?
In every anti-colonial struggle, to have the right of self-determination was something paramount for every people to have its dignity. Sometimes when people normalize the idea of Trump or Tony Blair ruling Gaza, it seems like they forget that Gaza has been turned since 2007 to the world's biggest concentration camp in the world. So they want people to be content by changing the prison manager of this concentration camp. How come the Israeli regime, when they put Gaza under complete siege by sea, by land and by air, they did so many violations in that, for example, they created restriction on the most basic things for Palestinians to access. So a maximum amount of calories that could enter Gaza based on the population, because they say it's in their documents, the release documents from the government policies, that they wanted to keep Gaza at the bare minimum, not to have people physically dying of malnutrition, but not having them physically capable of going through a resistance or to have the capability of development over Gaza even under siege. So they try to create in Gaza the situation that people was at the very limit of needing their constant support and to be always submitted to them. And the Palestinian people have been challenging this with their amazing sumud. So to have access to your territorial waters, to your borders, is the capacity to finally set themselves free of that. The violations of the siege, for example, prohibited Palestinians to access wedding dresses, chocolate, pasta for so many years until they released pasta to enter Gaza. So how come they can create such violations? How come isn't the world in revolt? If this concentration camp was created in Paris or in London, the world would be in completely revolt. But the ideological work that they do, dehumanizing Palestinians by saying that this is a violent people with a violent Islamic background, with a violent Arabic ethnicity, they try to create a way to manufacture consent for people to think that this is normal. People that has always believed in wars or religious wars that have no solution. But that is not at all what happens there. What happens is colonization. What happens is United States imperialism using that region to intervene in their plan of hegemony over the entire world. So to have access to your maritime waters is something that is crucial for every nation. So and that's why whenever they say that, you can deliver your aid to any neighboring country and we will deliver the aid, or we want to inspect your aid, the Global Smooth Flotilla has always been very emphatic to say, you have no right to control Palestinian borders. We will never give the aid to an occupying force, exactly the occupying force that have been starving the Palestinians to death. We'll never give the aid to you to intermediate our relations. The Palestinians have the right to have direct relations with all the people in the world, because we know that in a planet of 8 billion people, the support for Palestinian rights and self-determination is in their hearts and in their minds, and they are understanding the task that we have collectively to change this violation.
Looking ahead, what are the Global Smooth Flotilla's key priorities and planned actions in the coming period? And what message would you like to share with the Maldivians who stand in solidarity with the Palestinians?
I think the best way to go against an apartheid state like Israel is to go heads on with their strategies, with what they are doing on the ground. So what they are proposing now to the rest of the world is with the company of the US. They are proposing a 20-point plan where they think they are going to rebuild Gaza, they're going to bring peace and harmony and stabilize Gaza, they are going to bring clever people who will be in charge of the people and the communities inside of Gaza. And basically they are just doing a different kind of colonialization inside of the Gaza Strip. So what we propose to do is to give an alternative to that and to work with the Palestinian people to reach what they want and what they hope to achieve in their own country. That is why in the second mission that we are doing in the Global Smooth Flotilla, we are going to be part of the process to rebuild Gaza, to reconstruct Gaza. We are going to build Gaza, and we are going to send eco-builders to be with them. We are going to send teachers and lecturers to be part of rebuilding the education system. We want to rebuild the health sector by bringing in doctors and nurses and medical practitioners. And we hope that the whole world will understand that we will try our best to do that with all the venues available to us. And to make it happen, everyone has to be a part of it. Maldives has to be a part of it, and all these countries has something to give. Inshallah, in the near future, we will be opening a registration for all the positions that we need. We hope that besides the other skills that we need from the Maldivian people that we mentioned, doctors from Maldives will also be available to us, lecturers, engineers, and we will do this together. We will do this as a united front, and we will do this as a free country, doing the jobs of the governments and doing the jobs of these high-ranking people who are not doing enough for the people of Palestine. And with the people's power, we will rebuild Gaza and we will free Gaza, inshallah, in our living times.
Thank you all so much for joining this interview. I hope that you would visit the Maldives sometime in the future as well.
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As the Global Smooth Flotilla continues its humanitarian and advocacy efforts, its work underscores the growing role of international civilian initiatives in responding to prolonged humanitarian crisis. The delegation's visit to the Maldives highlights the importance of principled international partnerships and collective action in addressing global injustices. As a nation that has consistently and continuously voiced support for the Palestinian cause, the Maldives' engagement with initiatives such as the Global Smooth Flotilla reflects a shared commitment to humanitarian values, peace, and international solidarity. Thank you all once again for watching. Hoping to see you again next time. Goodbye.